Hi everyone, Music Review Guy here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Billie Eilish album, Happier Than Ever. This is a brand new LP from one of contemporary pop music's biggest stars, Billie Eilish. 2 years or so after the release of her excellent debut LP, which I think was one of the most unique and texturally gratifying albums to come out of the mainstream in a while. I was kinda neutral on her earlier output, but that album definitely turned me into a Billie Eilish believer and someone who was excited to see whatever her next album would hold. It was last year when Billie and her brother Finneas began the lengthy process of dropping singles that would eventually end up on this LP. I mean, the song My Future spans all the way back to the middle of last year. The track also sported this sort of sophisticated dance pop style, and it's okay, but it hasn't grown on me too much since then. But as we were getting more and more singles, there just seemed to be little to no consistency or cohesion to any of them. The track Therefore I Am, for example, was exactly the kind of quirky, dark, ominous bedroom pop that put Billie on the map, complete with a sharp sense of humor and lyrics that take shots at those who might be trying to leech off of Billie's popularity or fandom. There was also the somber ballad Your Power, which saw acoustic guitars and atmospheric vocal harmonies telling a story of abusing a position of influence, which I think is pretty apt commentary in the Me Too era. Aesthetically, the song is timely too in a post-Phoebe Bridgers world, but production-wise, in my opinion, not as daring as anything off of When We All Fall Asleep, which is sort of my general issue with Happier Than Ever. It shows Billie and Finneas trying their hands stylistically at a variety of different sounds, but the overall experience is somehow less unique and novel than the last record. It's not nearly as cohesive either, as this lengthier track list flows and sprawls a lot more awkwardly, occasionally dropping tracks that are underwhelming or only seem adventurous on the surface. For example, Billie Bossa Nova. Like, before have we heard Billie Eilish do a Bossa Nova track? No, but this song is pretty much exactly as advertised. It's just Billie Eilish doing a Bossa Nova type-ish track. Nothing more, nothing less. There are some kind of quirky sequenced rhythms worked into the production, and the lyrics are kind of sensual as well, but other than that, every aspect of the song falls pretty flat. Castaways, we are castaways. What? Castaways. No, I heard it the first time. Castaways. You have literally been gone for months, and you show up in this review of all reviews that you could show up with, and you do it with a stale and badly timed TikTok joke? Hating me for 5 whole minutes is not a review, Anthony. You are everything that is wrong with online discourse. You are filthy. You make me want to vomit. Do not come back until you have a new joke or a new anything. So yes, Billie Bossa Nova. One thing I will say about this song, though, is that it does deal in some of the most consistent themes throughout the record, being lust, temptation. This is also mentioned to a degree on the song My Future, which is a song very much about being by yourself, loving yourself, getting out of a relationship, and allowing that to give yourself some perspective and give yourself some direction. But there is kind of that bridge portion of the song where Billie is flirting with the idea of driving this person or someone home and how that might tempt her to go back into an old pattern that prevents her from going down this new path. There are also more primal expressions of this on the track OXYTOCIN, which is a total, complete, and very sexual banger, and production-wise sounds like what you would get if Pharrell Williams produced a 9 Inch Nails song from the 90s, and I stand by that fucking comparison. That's exactly what it sounds like. There's the closing track, Male Fantasy, whose intentions, lyrics, and obviously title is pretty self-explanatory. And the track Not My Responsibility some may remember as that semi-ambient spoken word piece that stirred so much controversy when Billie was performing it live last year. The piece is mostly a commentary on the non-stop public commentary on Billie's clothes, her looks, and a host of other things. So the record isn't completely random, at least thematically. I wouldn't go as far as to say say this LP is a mess. But again, musically and aesthetically, the flow is kind of inconsistent. The whole thing feels like a buffet of various music styles, some of which are kind of bland. To bring it back to Not My Responsibility again, as a 4-minute centerpiece for the LP, it's a kind of tedious listen, even if I think the statement and sentiment of the song is a necessary one. It also doesn't help that the instrumental segues directly into the following Overheated. It's more like a musical extension with a mesmerizing beat and massively half-baked lyrics. I'm overheated, can't be defeated, can't be deleted, can't be repeated. But then the following Everybody Dies, even though I like this track, is one of many moments on the LP as I'm listening through the entire thing that feels like we're hitting the reset button and we're starting aesthetically at square one once again. It's like a total switch up. The chords, the dramatic progression, the frank lyricism. Honestly, it kind of sounds like some of Finneas's recent solo stuff, which I guess again is not a bad thing because I do think it is a solid song and a pretty cool piece of apocalyptic commentary. But then once more things switch up on that acoustic single, Your Power, that I mentioned earlier. Then there's the head-scratching NDA, which feels like a Frankenstein monster of a few different incomplete ideas. Like the A section of the song feels like something from Billie's last record, but then it's paired with what sounds like a sample from some terrible world music sample pack. Bow, 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 bow. Then you have this distorted Yeezus-type instrumental build with some auto-tune vocals that runs like a pre-chorus ascending towards something, but then there's not really any release or payoff past that point. It just kind of goes right back into the verses. Musically and lyrically, Therefore I Am, that I mentioned earlier, is like classic Billie all the way. But then there's the title track, which is one of the most insane and surprising songs on the entire record. The whole thing starts off like a very stripped back and quaint 1950s style acoustic ballad with the kind of lo-fi guitars. Billie's singing has a vintage flair to it as well. Then eventually the entire track just ascends into this loud, blaring, distorted, chugging alt-rock instrumental that's like partially Radiohead from the 90s, partially My Chemical Romance. It's abrasive but gutsy and a little bitter too on the lyrical end. It's giving Olivia Rodrigo a run for her money in a way, which again, this is another cool moment on the LP. It's just a little annoying that my enjoyment of every track here just seems to be like on such a case-by-case basis. None of it ever feels like it's coming together as a cohesive piece or vision. It's so scattershot, which I guess would be fine if every single song was fire from front to back, but that's not the case. I would actually say the track list on this one is a little bloated with tracks that feel like they could have been extended or built out a little bit more, layered a bit more, or just abandoned entirely because they just come off a tad bit bland. We hear exactly this in the first two songs of the record. The opener is intimate, beautiful, simple. I love the gentle, hypnotic pumping organs just kind of pulsating away in the background. Billie's voice on top of them sounds gorgeous, and I think overall this is a perfect tone setter for the LP. But then following this, the I Didn't Change My Number has a surprising trip-hop twist to it, and by comparison, I think instrumentally is a little bit too dry, and then there is that stuttering, distorted vocal or noise or something that pops in suddenly on the back end, which I enjoy the song, but I am still like trying to reconcile that moment on the track because it's abrasive, it's not mixed into the instrumental well, seems totally random, and doesn't complement the track at all. Look, if we're talking like on an individual basis, there are a lot of moments on this LP that I could pick out and say, hey, here's a good song, here's a good song. Here's a highlight, here's a good track. To me, Happier Than Ever has a lot of the same great qualities that Billie's debut record did, but the creative tone on this LP feels a lot more like Billie and Finneas, just throwing some caution to the wind, trying a bunch of different sounds and styles and seeing what works, and just letting the chips fall where they may, I guess. Feeling a light 7 on this one. Transition, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head, it's another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Billie Eilish, forever.